All right, grand rising, grand arrival, grand return, peace and blessings to the righteous and repentant alike. I'm Sophia of the AmaruKhan Band of Indians, and this video is to discuss the planets and the houses. I'm going to be discussing each planet separately in a separate set of videos, but this is so that you can, if you are in the if you're on the Patreon, you will be able to take the worksheets that I'm going to be putting up there one by one and filling them out so that you are able to understand this information. And so you're welcome, anybody, to come and join us on the Patreon. We have a lot of good information there that's going to be coming that we're working on. So we're going to go through this pretty quickly. The sun. These are the planets and the short descriptions, and I have the basically, if you have the sun in the sign that I mentioned here, that's beside it, which is the sign that it's related to, then you have this also as a title. Okay. So I'll explain that with a run through of the Neptune chart that I did in a separate video. So the sun is the conqueror, and if it's in Leo, it's like a king, but in general, it's a conqueror. The moon is like a counselor. In Cancer, it's like the queen mother who is the counselor to the king, right? And in the North Node, it relates to the moon, is optimism, and the South Node is nostalgia. So what does that mean? If you have the moon in Cancer or in the Cancer house, which is the fourth house, then you have this Queen Mother energy. And if you have the North Node in Cancer or the South Node in Cancer, you also have this additional thing of optimism or nostalgia if it's the South Node assigned to you. And so we'll give an example of that shortly. All right, Mercury is like the library or the Akashic Records. And if you have Mercury, if you have Gemini placement, then it's basically like you're the library card. And if you have a Virgo placement, it's like you're the librarian. Venus is like the ruler or the leader or the governor, as I call our moon mansion guys. And in Taurus, it's the leader of the home. And in Libra, it's the leader of outside. So the outside world, work, not necessarily just work, but just generally outside of the home. Okay, Mars is the warrior. And in Aries, it's the frontline warrior. And in Scorpio, it's the special forces. Jupiter is the banker, and in Sagittarius, it's in the green, which means that the stock is going up, and in Pisces, it's in the red, which means the stock is going down. Now, I use these terms because that was the best way I could describe it, but honestly, if you understand how the stock market works, options, buys and sells, you can make money when the stock goes down, you can make money when the stock goes up. You just have to understand that there's a different strategy you take to make money when the stock is going down. Meaning when the stock is going down, you sell the stock and then you buy it back at you sell and then buy. When it's in the green, you buy and then sell. You buy low and you sell high. When it's in red, you sell high and buy low. Now, how can you sell something you haven't bought? It's options. You're not even buying the thing. You're buying the option to buy the thing. You're selling the option to buy the thing. You're buying an option. That's what it's basically called. Okay, so we'll probably be talking about that a lot. All right, Saturn is the drill sergeant. And in Capricorn, it's the front of the platoon. And in Aquarius, it's in the rear. Military people, please don't get on me. I come from a military family, but I don't know all the proper words. So please bear with me if that's not the best way, or if you guys know the actual terms for the front of the platoon versus the back of the platoon. And again, you could be in the front or the rear. Neither one is bad nor good. It just depends on it's just a difference of position. And people who understand military do know that sometimes, like in a pack of wolves, the leader is in the back of the pack. Sometimes, like in other packs of animals, the where the danger comes from the front, the person in the front is the leader. It just depends on the situation and the scenario. So that's what I want you to keep in mind about that. All right, so Uranus is actually the high priestess. And in Aquarius, it's personal divination, which is, I know it's group divination. Actually, I think I switched them. No, it's personal. No. Wait a minute. What did I do? I think I already changed it from this. I'm sorry, guys. No, Uranus is personal divination. It's used on individuals. And Neptune is so the high priestess is like the high priestess in the tarot. She doesn't use a bunch of stuff to get the work done, just her mind and, the angels and creation, the portal. That's all she used. The temperance and the world card. That's what's in the Pisces slice. That's what's in a Pisces slice, which is, interesting. Doesn't matter. But in Aquarius, it's personal divination because the magician, which is in the 11th house, is using what appears to be personal, the sun and the moon, for personal gain. Okay, this is a little bit confusing. All right, Neptune is the magician. So even though technically Uranus rules is that right? Hold on. Let me make sure that's right. Let's look. You guys haven't seen this chart yet, but Uranus rules Aquarius and Neptune rules Pisces. No, I got it right. That's amazing. Uranus rules Aquarius and Neptune rules Pisces. Okay. Neptune is the magician. And the magician uses, again, the sun and the moon. And so in Pisces, it's group divination. So it's literally trying to control a whole group of people, not just for your personal gain. So the high priestess is always like going on the inside to do something for personal purposes, for her own reasons. But a magician, especially with Neptune, is always doing something to influence a group. And that's the difference. Like when people go to high priestesses, they're trying to solve a personal problem they have. When they go to magicians, they're trying to solve a problem that they have in a group, typically. All right, like I said before, the North Node is optimism. The South Node is nostalgia. The Ascendant is your business card or your credentials. So it's literally what, you're authorized to do. Like what is your actual face that you put out, okay? The Descendant is your business partner. So, because the 7th house is all about partnerships, it's Libra. The Descendant really, the first half of your life, technically, quote unquote, you're typically developing your outside self. In the second half of your life, you're typically developing your partnership. So that's the difference between the Ascendant and the Descendant, okay? The part of fortune is your luck, plain and simple. Your Chiron is your wounds. Sedna is your subconscious program. It's going to be really important moving forward. And Pallas is your wise counselor. Now, the moon is a counselor, but the Queen Mother is either optimistic or nostalgic. Neither one of those could be good. They could both be bad because the Queen Mother can be optimistic. Okay, so Jezebel's not a good example because she was a mother. Actually, her son, he was also killed. But okay, so she's a good example. She was optimistic. Jezebel was that she could get Jehu, I think, to bring her into his kingdom and make her a part of his kingdom because she was going to seduce him. Why? Because Jezebel was also in her south node and nostalgic for the days when she ruled and there wasn't all of this fighting. So this is a queen mother. It could be good or bad. Pallas, Athena, is a wise counselor. This is one that is going to give you the wisest decision. As opposed to the moon, it's going to kind of go with the flow of the energy. And I hope that makes sense. All right. So here are the houses. Now, this is one thing that may be confusing to people. When we talk about the houses, they're numbered 1 through 12. But numbers 1 through 12 are still associated with a sign. So, for example, if you have Aries in the 4th house, your Aries is activated, but so is your 4th house. I hope that makes sense. And 4th house, as you can see on here, is Cancer. So, or Mother. So, you have actually 2 different signs associated with each placement. It's how it's an actual sign, the sign that it's in, and it's the house that it's in, the number. So you have both of those when you look at an astrology chart. You're looking at both of those data points. They're both very important. So Aries is the 1st house that's related to physical appearance and self-awareness. Taurus is the 2nd. Now, one more thing before I go too deep into this. These are my shorthand explanations. This is how I would explain this to somebody who's not really into astrology, who's not watching 1,000 different astrologers, who doesn't know that much about their chart, who is just getting started. This is good entry-level information. We have much more complicated information that we deal with. But the thing about this is trying to make it simple, especially if you have kids, young people, and you want to figure out how they're being manipulated. You could easily go through this chart with my little workbook that I'm going to put the personal almanac that I'm working on, and figure out how to help them. That's what the point of this is so that we can help people become more familiar with themselves and so that they know that they came here with a purpose. So each of these 12 houses also corresponds to a part of the body. So if somebody has a part of the body that's aching, you can almost figure out what the placement is by reverse engineering that. This is not in here because that's a little bit more complicated. I was just trying to make it as simple as possible because we've been doing complicated astrology for over a year, and I need to go back and make it simple so that it's keywords. We can diagnose people quickly. The whole point of this is being able to diagnose people's issues quickly so that they can be solved quickly, okay? So, 1st house is Aries. House number 1 is Aries. That's the house of the ascendant as well. And that's physical appearance, self-awareness. So, your ascendant is always going to have the flavor of Aries. Just like your descendant is always going to have the flavor of Libra. Like always. Okay. House number 2 is Taurus. And that's values, bloodlines, possession, security, and money. House number 3 is Gemini. And that's immediate environment, communication, and learned behaviors. House number 4 is Cancer. And that's family roots, end of life, and mother. House number 5 is Leo, and that's heirs, self-expression, and speculation. House number 6 is Virgo, which is self-suffering and improvement. Not just self-suffering, but also self-improvement and devotion. House number 7 is Libra, and that's real life connections and expressions. House number 8 is Scorpio, and that's legacy and infamy. House number 9 is Sagittarius, and that's universal consciousness and astro travel. House number 11 is Capricorn, and that's individual star power. House number 11 is Aquarius, and that's group star power. And house number 12 is Pisces, and that's star fall, which is to be Dharma, which is good, or karma, which is bad, depending on your behavior. So let's work through an example, a few examples. I'll just use myself because I have my examples. I already gave one example in the other video, but I'll probably give it again. All right, so we're looking at Neptune here. And so Neptune is where you can be psychologically manipulated by magicians using, oh, it's not personal divination. I got it wrong here. Magicians using group, well, I don't have it in Pisces. Magicians using group divination. Not personal. I got it wrong on here, okay? It's magicians using group divination. So mine is in Capricorn, which is individual star power, and it's in the 3rd house, which is immediate environment, communication, learned behaviors. So, and the example that I gave for this, where I can be manipulated by magicians using group, not personal, but group divination, is when I was in elementary school, I had a teacher, and in front of the class, okay, I had a teacher, and I was a very fast reader. And I would move my head like to follow along the lines when I read. That's how I was able to remember it. And what I was reading. And my teacher, in front of everybody, asked me to read out loud as fast as my head was moving. Well, I was a public speaker, and I have been a public speaker since I was 4. So I don't speak as fast as I read for obvious reasons because I'm a public speaker. And so I read in the same rate that I would read if I was reading something out loud. And she admonished me in front of everyone for that. And there was no reason for that. I was just reading. Like, it doesn't matter to you how fast I'm reading. But that's her using, that's a magician, which a teacher is a magician, using group divination, which is basically uh, calling someone out on something in front of the group to gaslight or psychologically manipulate me. Because after that, I didn't move my head when I read. But it was nothing wrong with me moving my head when I read. It was not an issue. She turned it into an issue when it was never an issue. And I still to this day don't know why she would do that, except to say, now I could say, well, she was a magician using group magic to better control her students. And that, I could accept that. You know what I mean? And that is how shadow work is supposed to be done. There's not supposed to be never-ending shadow work. You can get to the end of it. Now, it might take you a long time to identify all the events, but once you get the pattern of, oh, that person was just a magician, and they were using group divination to control a group of people. And that's why they did that to me in public. Okay, I got it. You know, just like there was an incident where some YouTubers had a problem with me, and I tried to extend an olive branch to them to make things correct. And I got a very negative response to that. And again, these were just magicians using group divination to try to make me seem like I was being unreasonable. People do that to me all the time. At this point, I'm just used to it. All right, so let's do another example that's not on here. So let's look at my Mercury. That's a good one. Did I write that one down? Okay, so Mercury is related to the library or Akashic records. So Mercury is where you can be gaslit by the library or by the Akashic records. This whole halls of Amenti and whatever, you know what I mean, that people are always big talking about. And for me, since I'm a Virgo, my Mercury is in Virgo, it's related to the librarian, not the library card having access to the information, but the librarian, which is getting going to access the proper information. So not just not accessing the information in general, but getting the right information. That's where I can be gaslit. Okay, about in relation to, again, the library. So mine is in Virgo, which is let's look over here. Virgo is devotion, self-suffering, and improvement. And I have it in my 11th house, which is Aquarius, and that's group star power. So I can be gaslit by the librarian, right, in relation to group star power, self-suffering, and devotion. So self-suffering, group star powers, self-suffering. So what would that look like? That would look like me studying with a group of people called the Hebrew Israelites for over a year, and every time I bring up new information that I know nobody has heard of before, nobody ever responds to it. Because that's not information Hebrews should be getting into. We're not supposed to talk about that stuff. We got to stick to the Torah and the this and the that. And no, we can't look at the Talmud because, of course, that would give us too much more information. But no, we're just going to be good little Hebrews and only stick to this information. So that's the librarian trying to tell our group star power, that we just have to continue to suffer, instead of someone like me saying, hey, we need to come through, and if we're supposed to be running this thing, we got to be able to lead. Who are the leaders here? Who knows how to do this? Who knows how to do that? That's what it is. I mean, and even before this, I was in a choir in high school, and my choir was really good, and but we were really good, but we were black. We were all Negroes, and we shouldn't be singing sophisticated Hungarian folk songs. We shouldn't be singing the Requiem or all the stuff we sang in Latin. We shouldn't be singing the South African national anthem. Don't you know you're from West Africa, because, all black people are from Africa, that kind of thing. Instead of saying, wow, this choir is really great, we need to ... This is how we're supposed to be done. And that didn't just happen in high school. I went to college. It was the same thing. Some of the songs we sung at my high school choir, I took them and we sung them in my college choir. And still our group star power was basically ignored. So this can be related. So then, as a person who is trying to do shadow work that has an end, I could say, okay, so every time I was in a group and we had the opportunity to shine and be recognized, it would turn into self-suffering. And that's what happened with my college choir. Like, I put all my heart and soul into them, making sure that everything was set up. And then when I graduated, they dumped everything I did out the closet, out the window, and they started doing whole different stuff. And basically everything that I did was just a waste. And I was really sad about that. But I was like, well, it is what it is. This is what happens to some people. And some people, their choirs are good and they get, all kinds of deals and contracts and everything else. And some people, when their choirs are good, it doesn't matter. They just throw you. Matter of fact, my senior year, because I graduated in 4 years, thank you very much. My senior year, we did a concert with Jonathan Nelson or Jason Nelson, whichever the one that isn't, doesn't have a recording contract, but they're twins. So they sound exactly the same. But we did a concert with them. I had a whole, snack set up. I did it, unbelievable stuff that I've done. And, it's just basically the librarian saying to me, oh, well, your group star power to, hey, every group does this. Look at what the white groups do. They don't whatever. Every single time I enter a group, this happens. And what's crazy is when I would describe this to people, like these things kept happening to me, they would say, oh, you're just being paranoid. No, I'm not being paranoid. This stuff keeps happening over and over again for my whole entire life. I'm not being paranoid. And that's another, another form of gaslighting. I'm sure that's in my chart somewhere. I haven't finished doing my whole chart, really processing it and looking at all the different ways people have treated me. But this is very much how it works. Like, you're not like imagining it. You have certain things assigned to you, and these entities know how this works. It's very simple for them. And so you could actually, track back all the things that happened to you and follow these different entities and see how this stuff has played out. It would be very obvious. And this works for everybody. I've done this already, bits and pieces to people just having discussions and asking them questions and seeing that clearly this lines up. You know what I mean? This is not, again, this is a science. This is not something that's just, I'm just making up. First of all, I don't have that capability. That's not in my chart to just make stuff up. But that's just what it is. And so we're going to be, of course, going into this in more detail. I'm putting together the personal almanac so you'll be able to, again, identify your different charts and get your information together and really do make sure you've done the work that you need to do and not just the work that's been placed in front of you. So, again, if you're interested in being able to have access to all the slides, come over and join us on Patreon. If the money is an issue, send me an email. I don't care. I don't do this for money. Like, I don't know how many. I am not willing to give my information to a certain priesthood for free. Everybody who's going to use this information, especially if they're going to use it to manipulate people, should have to pay. And it should have to pay more than what is on Patreon. But if they misuse it, they are going to have to pay way more. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So peace and blessings, everyone. Shalom, and we'll see you in the next video.